So we are on learning target 3 still, which is GCF and LCM. And this is day 2, and we are going to learn how to factor. So if you didn't see that last year in algebra, what factoring means is, let's see if my screen goes away here, writing an expression as a product. So this is reverse distribution. So you have seen expressions that look like this, and then you distribute to get it to look like this. So when we factor, we go in the opposite order. We start with an expression that's addition or subtraction, and we factor it into multiplication. So let's take a look at how to do that. Our learning target today, again, is I can factor expressions with variables. So we're going to start with a reminder of how to find the GCF, because we use the GCF to factor. So we did just see this yesterday, but in case this was a little confusing or you want some extra practice with it, we're going to take a look at it again. So for 8 and 12, the GCF is 4. For x squared and x, remember for GCF, you grab the variable with the smaller x common, so that would not be a common factor. So 4x is our GCF terms. This is the exact same thing as finding GCF with 2 terms, except for you're going to look at what all 3 factor trees have in common. 1, the GCF is 1. So I'm just going to be looking at the variables. We have to look at all 3 lists. I've got a to the 4th, a squared, a squared. So we take the smallest exponent in any of the lists, which is a squared. Then let's look at b. We have b, b to the 5th, and there's no b in the last term. So similar to our part A where y is not a common factor, b is not a common factor. C cubed, no c in the second term, and c cubed in the last term. So c is not a common factor. So our GCF on this one is a squared. So let's see how to use the GCF to factor. Now remember, when you distributed, you multiplied. When you factor, you divide. So we're going to first of all find the GCF, and we will divide that out of each term. So for 15 and 27, our GCF is 3. There's no variable that they have in common. 15 divided by 3 is 5, and the x just kind of goes along since we're not dividing out the variable. 27 divided by 3 is 9. I would recommend not using factor trees because that's going to get a bit complicated. Plus, I want you to focus on your multiplication skills. So thinking about your multiplication tables and remembering factors of different numbers. A check to see that you found the greatest common factor is to look at what's left in the parentheses to see if they have any additional common factors. 5 is prime, 9 is 3 times 3, so they do not have any more common factors, so 3 was our GCF. Next, we have 20w squared minus 16w. So again, thinking about what goes into 20 and 16, I immediately come up with 4. 8 also goes into 16, but does not go into 20, so I'm thinking 4 is the GCF. Looking at the variables, the smaller of the exponents is w, a single w as opposed to the w squared. So 20 divided by 4 is 5. And with variables, instead of dividing, because that tends to be a little bit more challenging to think about, I think about pulling out a variable. So w squared is w times w. If I divide out a w, it cancels, or I pull out one w, and I have one w left. The sign in the middle stays the same. 16 divided by 4 is 4. And anything divided by itself gives you 1. So I just have the 4, or I pulled out the w, and there aren't any w's left inside the parentheses. Again, 5 and 4 have no common factors, so I want to check that when I finish. We'll go through this last one. 32 and 8. Well, 8 goes into 32, so 8 is our GCF. Looking at my variables, I have m to the first power as the smallest exponent, and n squared as the smallest exponent. 32 divided by 8 is 4. Think about it as I pulled out one m from m cubed, so I have 2 m's left, or m squared. I pulled 2 n's out of n cubed, so I have 1 n left. Now for my second term, 8mn squared, that is my GCF. Remember, we're dividing. So if I take an expression divided by itself, what do I get? I get 1. A lot of students, when they factor, if one of the terms is the GCF, they lose that 1. It's kind of a placeholder. So make sure you don't drop that.